Oh, okay. I just got all of these like pop-ups in my face as soon as we went live.
Of course.
Of course, because they're like, oh, you're not connected to these things. So as I feel like this floating pale face right now, welcome to day one of Blue Talks Amplify Your Message. I am your host, Laura Lake. My co-host isn't quite here yet. And if you followed along at all, you understand there's always something going on where there's tech issues. We can't hear each other. We can't see each other. There's no internet. The power's out. The phone died. There's always something. Yeah. But yet we show up as best as we can every single time to have a fun conversation. And that's what we're going to do. And I love that today I'm starting off with my friend Jennie. And I have a surprise for her, which she just noticed a couple minutes behind the scenes, because she's going to be talking about this a little bit later. So I'll like tell you I have the surprise, but I'm not actually going to like reveal it until you tell us a little bit about who you are. Okay. So here's the plan for the week. If you don't know, I don't think you've been here or watched before, Jennie. And for those who haven't, because we just had the Experts Boot Camp over the weekend for speakers, for authors, for people who want to be on podcasts, we talked about all of that all weekend. And so my energy is like, yes, we're so excited. So we have new people. What is Blue Talks Amplify Your Message? We are here to have fun with our guests like Jennie and our co-hosts to figure out like who are the people behind the business, behind the message. Because yes, we have businesses, we have messages, and we want to share that. So then the other side of that, our audience wants to know, how can I amplify my own message with an understanding that our personalities, who we are, that stuff that I want to talk about, helps to dictate our best ways to share our message. And it's not necessarily writing a book if you don't like to write. It's not necessarily getting on a stage if you don't like being on a stage. So we want to find out what you have chosen to do and why. So Jennie, my favorite question to start off almost all of our interviews is this really fun one. Okay. If you could have people to describe you in 3 words, what 3 words would you love them to describe you as?
Ooh. I would say love.
Okay.
Because I love people. I love love. I like to exude love. I want to make sure people around me feel loved. So I would say love. My second one is light, that I'm a light in the world, that I am there, that I help make things brighter for them, whatever it may mean to different people. But love and light are like my main 2 things. And the third one, what would I want other people to describe me as? Oh, I'm going back and forth between 2.
Well, just tell us. It's all good.
Okay, so if I get an extra one, I'm debating between fun and safe, because those are also important things to me as well, is being able to be love, light, fun, and safe for people. So
I love all of those. And just so you know, our co-host, Max, is behind the scenes. So I'm just going to add you to stage. If you're ready, you can give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Sometimes you never know what's happening. So you just make sure that thumbs up is there. So welcome, Max. Before we get back into Jennie, you did just hear her 3 words that she would love other people to describe her as. Love, light, and then we're just going to do this. Fun and safe. Max, we don't know a whole lot about you, but just in about a couple sentences or so, you are my co-host. You're going to be asking questions of our guests. We want to know where you're coming from. So tell us a little bit about you so that we have that understanding.
Oh, I love what Jennie said. I mean, my name is Max Naist. I'm the founder and creator of Fearless Happiness Coaching and Consulting, which I've been in long-term recovery. I just turned 20 years sober 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So I totally resonate with all that, Jennie, right? I want people to feel safe. And where I come from is meeting people where they're at so that they also can exude kindness, love, and help the people around them, right? It's because it's, for me, it's, if I've done my job with one person, I know that they're going to pass it on. And that's my whole thing is, and I've been doing this for a long time in the addiction field setting and as a private coach. It's just helping people get back to what I like to say, God, the person God meant them to be, which, right. And early in my journey, one thing that I learned from some of my mentors is we had to do a random act of kindness and not tell anybody about it. And that was hard for someone early in recovery because, I want to go, look what I did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I teach my clients and people around me to do. Just go out one day, just do a random act of kindness and don't tell anybody. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me, Laura, and nice meeting you, Jennie. And
nice to meet you, Max.
This is going to be exciting because this is my first time as a co-host, so I love it.
Great. And just as an FYI, it's Jennie.
Oh, Jennie.
Yeah, I'm one of those weirdos.
Okay, let's talk about that. You know where this is going.
Oh, I do.
Okay. Oh, you do. You totally do. So the surprise that I have for Jennie is actually going to blend into this next part. I love Jennie so much, not just because she has purple hair, but because she is a badass at marketing and sales. And so when I first met her, I was like, purple hair, love her, great. But then you start to see some of her branding and you're like, what? Okay, so my surprise is that we have the same corset. So I wore my corset.
I love it.
Oh, now the lighting works. Okay, give it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say the lighting is like, oh, what's that shiny stuff? Because the corset is just, it's a beautiful corset. Oh,
so good.
It's so
I'm taking it off after you though.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you because not everybody can do the corset all day. No. It's that takes practice to do a corset for sure.
So tell us a little bit about why a corset? Where does that come from?
Right. So my branding, as you mentioned, so the name of my business and my podcast is Badass Direct Sales Mastery. So I said it slowly so that way people can go Badass Direct Sales Mastery. BDSM. Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So we like to have fun, which is why one of the 3 words that I chose for myself is fun and safe, because BDSM, when done properly, is also safe. So it is something that is very careful, but for me, it should also be fun. So I chose that branding because when I was looking to release my podcast, I had done my research and I had gone and checked out what other podcasts were out there in the direct sales and network marketing space. And what I saw when I saw female hosts of the shows were a bunch of middle-aged white women.
Yes.
So, and I did not have purple hair back then. So 4 years, I did not have purple hair. 4 years ago, I did not have purple hair. So that was not a standout piece for me at the time. So I was like, okay, how am I going to stand out from all of these other people who look just like me on the surface? And I realized, well, in talking to a couple of my coaches, so I had a podcast coach that I was working with and also my business coach. One of the things we realized that makes me stand out from much of the population in general is just the fact that I am part of the kink community. And so for me, that was something that I thought I could incorporate, because one of the things that I always had kind of seen myself when I was active in the direct sales world was that I always felt like I was a badass. I was a badass at leadership. I was a badass at sales. And, so I wanted to play on that. So the whole thing is just a play on terms. I don't actually whip anybody, but yes, I do have a riding crop here just for fun. I help people. The tagline for my show is I help women whip their business into shape. So I whip businesses, not people. And that's what it's all about. So that's where the corsets come from, because yes, if you go search my podcast, my cover art has me in a purple corset, with my riding crop, looking all very stern and ready to whip a business into shape. So that's where that all comes from.
Well, what I love so much, that it really embodies you and not just your picture perfect version of you. Because I remember in business, I wasn't allowed to show my shoulders. I wasn't allowed to have tattoos. I wasn't allowed to have hair dye that had washed out and left a subtle tint to my hair. Right? And so now that we're entrepreneurs, we have that freedom to express ourselves in our business. But at the same time, we have the old school beliefs of what that should look like. So I just want to like highlight your courage and your bravery to be like, this is me. Yeah. Front, center, corset, awesome.
Right. Well, and what I've seen happen from it, though, is the number of people who feel comfortable stepping out to be more of themselves, because they're like, if she can do that, then I can be more of me safely. Right. Yes. Because they see me not being shunned. They see me, being accepted in the world. They see me being open and authentic about things. I on social media, I don't just share all the good stuff. I don't make my life look perfect. If people go scroll through my feed, they're going to see the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, the celebrations and I had for example, the most recent, not great post that I shared to say, hey, look, y'all, sometimes life happens, was I went through a Reiki training course. And one of the things that came up in my Reiki was some emotional stuff that ended up causing me to shut down half of my business day, canceled all my appointments for the rest of the day, because I was having a day where every little thing had me crying. I was like, what the ever living. Well, I won't complete that sentence because fill in the blank with expletive of choice. Because I was having a day, and because it had opened up a part of me that I was like, oh, I thought I healed that. Apparently not. So, but
so why the direct sales marketing? Because when that there's those people going, oh, direct sales, MLM, pyramid scheme, and all fill in the blank.
Right. Exactly. Because that's my business initiation. My initiation into business was through the direct sales world. I had been a middle school science teacher for a number of years, took some time off to be a mom. And when I tried to get back into education, it was the middle of a major recession in 2010, and school districts in my area could not afford a teacher with experience. They were only hiring brand new teachers out of college. And so I was like, okay, fine, universe, if I'm not supposed to be teaching, where am I supposed to be? And that's how I got into direct sales. And during the 7 years that I was in direct sales, I earned trips, cars, all of that. But the things that I'm most proud of, I talk about the trips and the cars because most people don't know people in direct sales who have earned those things, right? But then the things that I'm most proud of, though, are the 2 trophies that I have here behind me that the sun is actually very nicely highlighting at the moment. There's 2 of them there. This one right here is almost not visible because the sun is hitting it so bright. But those 2 trophies right there are the group trophies, meaning my group hit number 1 in the world in recruiting and number 3 in the world for sales. And to me, that was the first aha moment for me that I could help other people be successful, because it wasn't about me. The trips and the cars, that was my own personal stuff, right? That my personal sales, my personal recruiting, that's what earned me the trip and the cars. But these 2 could not have been done without the team doing their part too. And so that was my first inkling that maybe, just maybe, I could be coaching other people and helping them be successful. Because one thing I know about people in direct sales and network marketing is when they buy their kit or when they enroll in the company, they have a dream. Even if they don't share it with anybody else, they have a dream of what they want to accomplish with that business, whether it's paying for ballet lessons or starting a retirement fund or just, and I say just and kind of tongue in cheek, or just replace their income for the corporate job that they absolutely hate because it is sucking their soul out of them. And they want something that actually helps people and that where they feel like they're really contributing to others in the world through their business, whether it's essential oils or skincare or jewelry or whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter what the product is as long as they're passionate though. Right. So what did you say, Laura?
I said socks, but I'm so passionate. I just keep all the socks and wear them. And then I gave away 2 pairs because you know how you come across those people who just, they don't ask for it. They're just having the conversation about how this particular part of their life is difficult. And you know that your product is going to help them and you don't even ask. So then I send a handwritten letter with a pair of socks in the mail. And then you don't ask for anything. And you do it randomly so nobody knows what's going on. And then you don't tell anybody about it because it doesn't matter. It only matters to that person.
Yeah.
And then I keep all the other socks and wear them. I haven't sold any of them. I'm just like, they're all mine. I love them too much.
All right. So I have a question for you, Jennie.
Yeah.
So like we know entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Like if you're not ready for this, like, cause I've tried the MLM network market long ago, right? But I had no idea what I was doing. So
nobody does, thank God.
Right? and it wasn't my path, but so what I wanted to ask you, like knowing that was your path when you finally got into it, like what were some of the challenges that you faced, right? Especially when people see your BDSM, right? The first thing they're going to think is, what is this lady trying to sell me? Like whips, chains, handcuffs. Right? So as an entrepreneur, like what are some of the challenges you had to overcome to get yourself going? And right, because we know there's always, stumbling blocks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like to say in the entrepreneur world, fail forward, right? So how did you learn those lessons?
Well, I would say some of my biggest stumbling blocks, my biggest one that I still work with to this day, because it is part of who I am, is my ADHD. Being right? ADHDers unite.
Yes.
And then hopefully we'll remember to get back together a month later. Nope. It's gone. It was my ADHD, which I think is, and Laura and I met through Michael Whitehouse, who has a podcast called ADHD Superpowers, right? Or Neurodiversity Superpowers, right? ADHD is not just my stumbling block. It was also my superpower and still is my superpower because I am persistent to the point, because I joke about this, but it's not a joke, but it is a joke because I forget about the failures. I kind of go, oh, well, that's fine. Like I move on so quickly because I don't like, I think many of us in ADHD don't like to feel the negative feelings. So we just immediately pivot to, okay, the next shiny so we can not feel the negative feeling. And so that allowed me to be more persistent. So I do see that as not just my stumbling block, but as a superpower. I would also say the first one that I recognized before the ADHD though was I recognized that in order for me to be successful was I needed a bigger network because my company that I was with and the product that I had was jewelry. So within 90 days, 120 days of me starting my business, I had pretty much gone through my entire network. And I was like, okay, now what? And this was 2011 at that point that I had that realization. And that's when I was introduced to networking, in the business world. And I became a BNI member in February of 2011 because I knew I needed to grow my network. And that's how I was going to do it, was have other people who got to know me, got to know my business, and could then introduce me to other people that way. And it was really fantastic. So for me, networking was the stumbling block, and the size of my network was a stumbling block. Getting into networking and doing so effectively. Now let me tell, I was not a perfect networker at first. I made all the mistakes that entrepreneurs make getting in to networking, showing up to events and throwing out as many business cards as I possibly could, like I was a poker dealer in Vegas,
We all
like
know that
you get a
person.
card, you get a card, you get a card, right? Like giving out business cards is business. It's not, but we don't know what else to do. So we're like, here, just take my card. Right.
Yeah.
So I'd say those were my two biggest ones.
I love that.
Good.
Okay, so you mentioned that you had a podcast.
Yes.
Okay, good. So tell us, what kind of message are you trying to share through your podcast? I know that you talk about many different things, but there's always that core. So what is that core that you're trying to get across to people?
The core is the persistency, the consistency, right? Because without the persistence, without the being consistent in business, working your business every single day. And sometimes that could just mean that working your business is listening to my podcast, because my belief, and the thing that I tell people about all the time when they're listening to the show is, hey, if the only thing you do for business today is listen to this show and get this nugget of brilliance from my guests, then the universe has served you exactly what you needed. If you're listening to this right now, it's because this is exactly what you needed to hear in this moment. The universe brought you here. The universe, God, source, I don't care what you call it, brought you here, put this podcast in front of you right now because it believed you needed to hear it. And so take from it what you will, and then apply the knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about that during the Experts Bootcamp this weekend. And one of the websites that came up was one that's called listennotes.com, because then you get to see all the different podcasts. Mm-hmm. And we were doing podcast pitching. So, of course, we have top 5% podcasters on there. And I'm like, oh, I have a friend of mine who has this BDS, Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast. So then I look you up live. And I'm the type of person who's constantly writing notes in the chat. I just show up the way I want other people to do. So I looked you up. You're top 2%. How does that feel? Did you know that?
No.
So now I want to ask, on behalf of Corey, who doesn't quite know yet, I would love to connect you with Corey and potentially you being a guest at our next Experts Bootcamp so that people can pitch you. Are you open to something like that?
Definitely. Okay. Holy crap. Yeah, no, I love helping people get on shows. I love helping people understand how podcasting, whether they're being a podcast host or being a guest on a show, can actually build their business, build their, really get them in front of other people. The one thing I did know about Listen Notes is that's what I use to see how many different shows I've been on that aren't mine. And I mean, I'm
as I look it up.
Yeah. Because if you go search your own name.
Yeah.
Right. It'll give you a listing for how many different shows you've been on. And I know I've got about 220 shows. So if I take whatever the number that is minus 220, that's how many other shows I've been on. So I've been on over 100 other podcasts.
Yeah,
at this point in time.
Yeah. Awesome. Dang. Okay.
I got two potential guests sitting in front of me.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Absolutely.
I will be reaching out to both of you.
Please do. Because podcasting for me has been such a wonderful blessing that I fought tooth and nail when I was first introduced to it.
Yeah, this is what we want to know.
Right. And because I got invited because a friend of mine had a free ticket to go to something called the New Media Summit back in September of 2017. And she was like, come on, just come with me. And I was like, girl, I am trying to build a coaching business. I do not have time to podcast. And she's like, oh, don't start one. Just come be on these other people's shows because nobody does what you do. And she's right. Even still 5 years later, there's 100 people in the world who do what I do.
Yeah.
Right. And still, they don't do what I do. We just do something similar. Right. There's other direct sales coaches, but they don't do it the way I do it. They don't, they don't teach it the way I teach it. They don't coach the way I coach, but et cetera, et cetera. And so I said, okay, fine. I will go meet these people. Well, I ended up getting on 8 different shows. And that was my introduction to it as a guest. And then I went to the next New Media Summit, and 6 of the hosts that I had been on their shows on from the first one were back at the second one. And all 6 of them said I was their number 1 downloaded episode.
Aww.
And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." But I know why that is, because I actually promoted my appearances, and I actually went through and sent private messages to people in my network saying, "Hey, I was on this show, and I really think this is a show in general that you would like, not just because I'm the guest, but I think you would like the host, and I think you would like other stuff. Would you go listen to my episode, see if you like the host, let me know what you think." And so and it's not like I was doing, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of downloads. I was helping them get, like, between 35 and 60. And still at between 35 and 60, I was their most downloaded episode. And I was like, well, that's eye-opening. That's all it takes? Huh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I want to
And
add to that
yeah.
just before you move on, because at the last Experts Bootcamp, when we did highlight podcast pitching, that is exactly what every one of the podcasters said. It is so rare for people to actually share their podcast and promote their podcast. They might say that they will, but then who actually does it? And I'm very, very guilty of this.
Oh, yeah.
I have wonderful intentions, but then like life gets in the way and then it just doesn't happen the way that I want it to. But to have and to see somebody who actually follows through with that.
It's huge. It's huge for us in the podcast. And now that I've become a podcaster, yeah, I love it when people share. Like, one of my all-time favorite guests is not only because he's freaking awesome and hilarious and fantastic and brilliant, is this gentleman named Jeff West. And it's because still to this day, he was on my show, I think last November. And still to this day, every once in a while, I get a tag on LinkedIn saying that he shared his episode again. I'm like, and that is the most brilliant thing you can do, because you've added more connections since the last time you got interviewed, since it went live, right? So there's more people who haven't seen, because when they become your friend, they may not scroll all the way through, or when they connect with you on LinkedIn, they may not scroll all the way through to see all the things you've done. So when you share new things, when you share those episodes, like I could go back and share the interviews I did back in 2017 and 2018. I could share them now as long as those podcasts are still around, which there's like a 50-50 shot of that. I don't know. Yeah. But going through and sharing that is important. But here's why I want to share why it's important for the guest.
Yeah.
Because I got more results from sharing the episodes where I was a guest than I do from sharing my episodes as a host.
Yep.
And that's because when the people in your network listen to you being interviewed, they listen with a different set of ears. And all of a sudden, they're not trying to block, they don't have their guard up from being sold. Right. And so they're listening to what you have to say to this podcast host. And then they start going, oh, I didn't know you did that. Or, oh, I didn't know I didn't know you knew that, and how I didn't know you help people that way, or whatever it may be, because that's what suddenly started happening for me as a podcast guest. Was I would have people reach out to me and they would say, I didn't know you did that. And they were people in my own network. Right. So I started getting results from my own network just because I was sharing these interviews and asking people, hey, would you go listen and let me know how I did? I would love your feedback. Right. And so the podcasting started as a guesting piece. And yes, absolutely. What's in it for the guest is to share this with your network so people actually listen to you and go, oh, well, I didn't realize that's what you were doing. Because we all just assume that everybody knows what we're doing. And no, they don't. They're all so living their own lives. They're not paying attention to what you're doing until you say the right thing, until you have the right piece of marketing material, until you have the right pain point that comes out in your in what you're talking about, before somebody suddenly goes, oh, that's what you did. Oh, okay, gotcha. So
because a lot over the weekend too. Because I was one of the coaches, and then the more you have coaching calls and have conversations with people, the more you learn about yourself. So, of course, I'm in these coaching calls, and over the last couple of years, I finally started to understand that what it is that I help people with is, you know how they go in like 50 different directions? They take 50 different courses, learn 100 different tools, and then try to label themselves as 20 different titles? It's like, no. What is the thread that connects those things together? Yeah. Usually it's emotional and it has nothing to do with the actions and results. Yeah. That's my sweet spot. because then with that, I can connect and help you create clients versus find them. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's like, cool.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's when people can suddenly realize, because when they're listening with those different set of ears now is what I like to call it, then they suddenly begin to see themselves as potentially working with you, because they're like, oh, I bet she could help me with that. I bet she could help me with that. So, I still am a BNI member. I still go to BNI meetings. And what's interesting is, each and every week, the way I talk to people, the way I introduce myself is the way I introduce myself here. I work with direct sales leaders who have ADHD to help them focus on their business growth activities so that they can enjoy time with their families. Right? But what happens is oftentimes in BNI, I have people who are not in direct sales, but they are leaders, or people who are ADHD leaders, or people, different things like that all of a sudden pop up, and they self-identify because they may not be in direct sales, but they're a leader with ADHD, or they're in direct sales with ADHD and they're not a leader yet, or whatever it may be, right? They're going through and, finding themselves going, well, maybe she can help me with that, right? So that absolutely, helps with the whole process, is to really have people see the pain point, right? Because then when you start telling the stories about the direct sales leaders with ADHD, then people who are not necessarily in direct sales, because let's face it, business is business is business. I don't care how you get paid. I don't care what product you sell. Don't care. It's all the same, right? Yeah. We all need sales and leadership in order to be good in entrepreneurship, right? And everybody's in sales, whether you want to believe it or not. We are all in sales. So when you can improve your sales, when you can improve your leadership, because guess what? Sales is also leadership. You're leading your customer down the path. That's leadership. So sales and leadership is so super important in the world of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. And Jennie, like when I got started, I made the mistake of telling my coach that I was going to start a podcast when I was like a couple years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
And in passing, thinking he wasn't going to pay attention. But every week when we would meet, he would say, Max, how is your podcast coming along? And man, I was the king of excuses. Oh, I'm learning how to do the artwork. I am trying to get a right mic. And God rest his soul, he passed away of COVID in 2021.
Oh.
I remember one of the last conversations, and I gave him an excuse, and he was like he never cussed, but this guy cussed at me this time because he was done with my excuses, right? And he says, I don't care, just get it done, because he said perfect doesn't mean done, right? Like just
right. Done is better than perfect. Right. Yes.
So I want to ask you this question. So in the beginning of your podcast, because I'm still learning, right? 126 episodes in, I still feel like I'm a long way from where I want to go, but that's good though. It keeps me going. But how did you overcome some of those challenges? Because if you're ADHD, like you just said, I know that, it's like going to the kitchen to get my wife a glass of water, right? I've made 10 stops before I got there, and I made 10 stops before I got back to the room.
Uh-huh.
How did you overcome some of those obstacles, right?
Great question. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So what has kept me consistent and going in the podcasting world is the fact that I realized there were two things that I was dropping the ball on or really hated doing. And the first thing was editing. I hated it. I hated it. I hated editing. It was not my thing. I'm like, I already did this interview. Like, I'm done. Like, mentally, I was done with it. Right. And so that was slowing me down. So as soon as I possibly could, I hired somebody to take over the editing piece. And as soon as that happened, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, look at this. I'm getting more consistent. Like literally, I I encourage anybody who thinks that I'm perfect in podcasting, please, dear God, go look at my first year in podcasting, right? Because my first month I was consistent. I had a new episode every single week. And then second month, it was like we had 3 episodes that month. And then the third month, there was 2 episodes that month because I was procrastinating on editing. I had enough interviews. That wasn't the problem, right? The problem was not, having enough guests, because some podcast hosts have that issue. That was not a problem for me. There are millions of people in direct sales. I knew I could find plenty of people to interview and talk to, right? And so for me, it was the editing piece. Then after that, the next piece that I was dropping the ball on was the promotion of my episodes. So, you know how you get apparently in the top 2% of all podcasts. Oh my God, I'm going to be sharing that on Facebook now.
Of course.
Thank you, Laura.
We're all going to hear you, Jenny. We're all going to say
who I
got to speak to today.
The second thing that I then hired out was the promotion of my show. And so I fired my previous social media manager. And I sent a message to every one of my previous guests and let them know that she had been fired and I had hired a new person, and introduced them to my new social media manager, because she started promoting like crazy and we tripled my downloads in a month. And I've had consistent, regular growth ever since then, because I'm not the one doing the image creation, the audiogram creation, the connecting with the guests afterwards to say, here's your link, here's your what. She does all that. So literally I get to do my favorite parts of podcasting, which is networking to find the guest and then interviewing the guest. And then after that, depending on who they are, I'm either affiliating with them because they become a referral partner, because maybe they're a coach, author, or speaker who has a program and I can then affiliate with them. Or if they are a potential client, because I also use my guest seat as a business development piece for me, I can get conversations with people who might not have talked to me before. And now all of a sudden they get to be on my show. So now they'll at least talk to me. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, oh, she's kind of cool. She's fun. Oh, wait, did you say you do training? Did you say you do coaching? You do consulting? Tell me more about that. It starts a conversation, and then I can do that. And the other thing I can do is just connect my guests. So I do regular networking events with all of my guests who all fit within a particular descriptor. So the coaches, authors, and speakers go in one networking event where I'm like, hey, some of you have YouTube shows, have podcasts, have LinkedIn live shows, have whatever going on. So you guys should all connect and talk with each other, connect with each other that way. And then the people who are in the direct, who are active in the direct sales network marketing world, I do connection circles, their networking events with all of them, saying, hey, how can we all collaborate, build each other up? Can we go follow each other on social media? Can we do these other things to help each other out? What are we all learning? Because what we learn in one company may not be the same thing as we're learning in another company, and we can share and grow together.
Yay.
So that I would say that's all my favorite stuff to do. So Max, to answer your question, hire out the things that you can. So in my case, that was the editing and promotion. Hire it out. Let someone else do it. If you need to, go to Fiverr. You can find people really inexpensively who are willing to do that kind of stuff for $5, $10, $15 an hour kind of thing. And, and then work your way to where you can really afford to bring them on, So that's my suggestion. I hope that answers your question, Max.
Absolutely, because I remember trying to learning, the editing software, and that was my excuse. Like 5 meetings in a row, and he's like I could just see his face going like, dude, really? You're going to spend
You should know it by now.
Right. So then I did. Yeah, I got the hint, and I hired someone to edit. And now I'm learning other stuff to as I can roll out to other people, pay them to do it. But yeah, that answers my question, because
Good.
Right. I know that I want to be perfect. I want to do it myself so I could show the world, look what Max did. But when nothing's getting done, they're going, yeah, look what Max is doing. Nothing. sitting there. So
no, okay, Max, I'm going to stop your mindset right there because I looked you up on Listen Notes too. You're top 2.5%.
Holy, really? Oh my God. You just made my day, Laura. Really?
See what I mean? Okay, so Jennie, we have about 5-ish minutes left. I just want to make sure that you say what you really wanted to say today. So we did get to find out that you love podcasting and why you love podcasting. But I want to know, like, what is one thing that you just need people to hear and understand from the work that you do or from our conversation today? And then we'll ask you where to find it.
What's coming up for me is the importance of being yourself. And I know lots of people are talking about being authentic and everything. And honestly, I can say the more I am myself, the more successful I've been, right? So instead of trying to hide pieces of myself away from the world, and when I finally started sharing bits of myself on social media, and I mean, the number of people that I've had come up to me or send me private messages saying, thank you for being yourself in this aspect, because it's given me courage and, I don't want to say permission, but permission to share that same aspect of myself. So, the example I'll give is there's an accountant here in my area who saw me sharing during, the past year or so. I'm also part of the LGBTQ community. So I'm, sharing that part of myself with the world. And she finally felt comfortable enough to put on her collateral. She was like, queer owned. And she was like, I was like, oh my God, I love that so much. Like, because in a very conservative, profession such as being an accountant, that could be a kind of scary thing, right? And what has actually happened is now so many people from the community are flocking to her, right? Because they're going, oh, we want someone safe. We want someone that we know who gets us and is going to use our pronouns and like is not going to be judgy about the fact that I have a same-sex partner or whatever, and it's been so beautiful to watch her growth through all of that. And it's all just because I was just being me.
Oh,
right? Doesn't it make you want to freaking cry? Like,
one of my mentors said to me once, they said, I don't even remember which one. I've had so many mentors over the years.
Right.
Like every time you touch one person, that one person has touched other people, and then those other people have touched other people. And so anytime you touch one life, you are touching thousands or potentially millions of people without even knowing it. That's exactly what you just expressed to us. So making sure that you can speak to that one person authentically and truly, like the whole complete version of you, it's magic.
Absolute it really magic. Is. And it's so much easier to just be yourself all the time instead of going, wait, what does this person know about me? What do they not know about me? Like it just, everything gets easier to just be like, look, love me, take me as I am, or don't. That's fine, because there's lots of other people who do.
Okay, now Britney Spears is playing in my head. Love me, hate me. Okay, Jennie, where do we find you? How can we connect with you?
Oh my gosh. Probably the best place is on my website, badassdirectsalesmastery.com. I know that's like the longest domain name in the history of ever. But it's bad, or just Google me. Seriously, Jennie Bellinger, you can't not find me. I'm kind of ubiquitous at this point. Corset. I know, right? Exactly.
Which is time to take off. I was like, there's the corset, beautiful corset. She has the same one, which is so cool, but it's time to like take it off.
Yeah, it's because it's like I need to be able to breathe. Had I known you were doing that, I would have probably worn one of mine. I can't wear that the one that I have that matches yours. It doesn't quite fit me right now because I've put on a little bit of weight.
Oh,
so
mine too.
I tried to wear it this weekend when I went to Ren Fair, and my boyfriend and I were trying to get it on, and I was like, nope, never mind. We're not doing this one. Never mind. We'll pick it. It's not like I don't have a plethora of corsets to pick from anyway, but
love it.
No. Oh my gosh. So
there you go. This has been so much fun, Jennie, and I love you even more. So thank you. And I can't wait to see more of you around.
Oh, thank you for having me, and nice to meet you, Max. And yes, we should
Nice to meet
definitely
you,
talk as top 2%ers of all podcasters.
right? Yeah. So like if my wife now asks me why I can't get my head through the door, I'm gonna have to tell her why.
Yes.
I'm a top 2.5% of podcasts.
Oh, that is fantastic.
I love it. I just love podcasting. It's just opened up a whole new world for me. It's helped me get out of my shell because
Yeah.
I'm like I could sit in my room and watch football and that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to say goodbye to you, Jennie. Or we're not going to say goodbye. We're going to say until next time. I like when
Until
Corey does
next
it. Until next time.
till
Yeah.
next.
Until next time. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our next guest is waiting behind the scenes. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear us and you're ready. Awesome. Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
Good to see
Hey,
you.
Shelley.
Good to see you too.
So I'm going to ask this first because I see books behind you. So are they your books?
Yes.
Oh, well, show us the books. Share.
So let's see, I backwards here.
Either or.
This one is Love and Inspiration from Mom. And that I published by myself, and it was super exciting. And I wrote it to help my daughter through a really traumatic time. And used it to get myself through my cancer journey. So that's kind of fun. And then the other one is The Transformational Journey, and it's a multi-author book that I participated in, and it came out a week ago tomorrow, and we hit over 50 #1 bestseller international.
Woo, congratulations. I love when they're brand new like that. How lovely of the timing.
Right?
So then let's continue with that. Maybe you can use some bites to help you promote it a little more. What are some of your favorite pieces, either of your own writing or other people's writing, that you found in the book?
So in my own book, after my daughter lived through a really torturous experience, she had a breakdown, and I dropped everything in my world and moved to where she lived, and literally helped her get out of bed every day for months. It was really the most eye-opening experience I have ever had. And after she was well enough to go back to work, I still wanted to continue loving and supporting her. So every morning I would send her an inspirational quote that I'd found, and then I would give her a couple of tips on how she could apply it in her day. Love, Mom. And I did that every day for months. And she got better and stronger and just more optimistic. And at the end of that, she said, Mom, you need to put that in a book so you can help other people who are going through a tough time, who don't have somebody to pick them up when they're down. And, then life got busy and, it went on the back burner. And out of the blue, I was diagnosed with non-smoking lung cancer. Crazy.
Yeah.
And I had a very dramatic surgery. They removed the lower half of my left lung and all the lymph nodes around it. And so while I was recovering, I thought, you know what? I'm not too busy to get my book published. So it was kind of the editing and the rewriting of it that helped me get through my journey. And, a year and 1 month after my surgery, I launched my book. So it just has wonderful quotes in it. And, they inspire people, and it gives you tips every day on how you can apply it. So I love it. I'm proud of it. Jack Canfield wrote the foreword for my book.
Did he?
He did.
Aww.
Awesome.
That's so fitting. Cool. Okay, see, now I really want to know, because the amount of people that I've heard from lately who have something going on in their lives where they're truly struggling. Can you give us just one of your favorite quotes or affirmations that you had? Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite, I love Les Brown. And I have 3 or 4, I'm not sure, I can't remember how many I ended up with, of his quotes in my book. And one of my favorites that he says is, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And, my love, Mom, from that is, every day we have the opportunity to choose between easy and hard. And it's those hard things that push us out of our comfort zone and that stretch us, that help us really have a much easier life.
Yep. I'm just thinking about yesterday, because that was kind of the behind the scenes pattern of discussions that was happening, was we need to do the hard things for life to be the magic that we're looking for, instead of it feeling dull and unsatisfied. Right. So yesterday, while we were doing some pitching of all the coaches to the audience, I was like, I've always wanted to do this thing that has been so scary. And so yesterday, about half an hour before we went live, I wrote some lyrics to somebody else's song, so my own lyrics, put it on top of the melody of their song, and then sang my intro to about 100 people live on Zoom. And I was like, I have to minimize the window.
That's awesome, man. But
I did it because it was hard. I did it because it was uncomfortable. And I knew that the more I practice that, I talk about courage. So the more I practice that courage, the easier life is going to be. So I love that you brought up that particular quote.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you, Shelley.
Nice to meet you too.
I have, I've been through some tough family situations like yourself, and it always, sometimes I look back, I'm sure like you do, you go, how did I get through it? Right? Like all this stuff going on. And it's just like, part of you goes, why me? Like, please, right now, not now, because I got stuff to do. And what it brought up for me, and I want to ask you is, right, like, because there's these 3 principles I learned from a TED Talk speaker, which I realized later after listening to them that I've been doing it for the past 20 years, right? Which is always be authentic, surrender the results, and do the hard work always, right? So when you're going through that with your daughter, because I've been through some stuff with my son, we lost a granddaughter 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, some family members before that. What helped you get through that? Because being a mom, it's tough when you're watching your child go through anything, and what helped you get through that, right? Without letting her know that you were struggling. Because I know when my son had a stroke at 30, right, due to his addiction, I had to be strong, but there was times I just wanted to run to my car and cry like a little baby, but I can't. I had my daughters around, and family members, and it was just like, how did you get through that? And what can you share with the audience that will help them in tough situations? Because I think it takes a special human being to get through, first your daughter and then you going through cancer, non-smoking cancer at that. You're probably thinking like, what the heck?
Right. Yes, that was out of the blue. As most things are in life, right? We don't expect, and when we get hit by it, it's like, what, like you sometimes feel a little bit like a boxer, you kind of get hit and then it's like, all right, I got to get back up. And, I have an acronym. Part of my book is, we've all heard the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And it's, like, that's good in theory, but really, how do you do it? When life is so sour, what do you do to make that lemonade? And I have an acronym for sugar. And, you have to add sugar, because when life gives you those really sour lemons, we got to sweeten it somehow. And the S in sugar is seek blessings. I think in everything that happens, when we can look for the positive things and we can keep a positive mental attitude, we're better for ourselves and we're better for the people that we're trying to help. And, my husband's kind of always joked that I have Pollyanna thinking. And my reply is, oh, no, it's not Pollyanna thinking, it's Shelleyanna thinking. And that is where reality and optimism meet. And I think, if even in the hardest struggles that we face, if we can stay optimistic and we can look for the blessings, big and small, in everything that happens, we can live a much happier, sweeter life. And so, I know with our kids, it's really hard to go through hard things ourselves, but it's really hard to go through them as a parent, because we just want to take that pain away from them. And, if we could, live through it ourselves, we would.
Right.
But I think about the transformational journey of the butterfly, the story about the little boy who sees the butterfly struggling to come out of the cocoon and ends up cutting the butterfly out. Well, he robbed the butterfly of the transformation that it takes to push our way through. And, it's that pushing through that expands the blood to the wings to help us fly. And so on the cover of my book, Love and Inspiration from Mom, I have a butterfly on the book because we're all transforming in some way every day.
Aww.
Yes.
I didn't even know until, I want to say, about 2 years ago, that butterflies don't just stay as their little caterpillar and then turn into a butterfly. I don't know. They go into goo first. I didn't know that.
Goo?
They turn into goo and then they turn into a butterfly. I'm like, oh, that changes everything. You're like, now it's not just on the surface, slight shifts of my body, my mind, my spirit. Like, this is, you got to crash and burn. And then you're being completely transmuted from the inside out to have that transformation. I was like, it's so much better. It doesn't make me feel so bad when life does this.
When you feel gooey, like a gooey mess.
It's like a gooey mess, complete with like tears and a puddle around you. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. That's why it took me a long time to understand what a mentor taught me one time. He said, Max, lean into the suck. And then he left me to sit with it for a while. Like, why would I want to do that? Right. Yeah. Until I've gone through it and realized what he was telling me. Because I think when we go through challenges like that, I like to call it our struggles. I believe that there's a lesson we need to learn, right? That the universe, God, or whoever is out there, I believe in God, wants us to learn a lesson, right? And they say if we don't, we're going to repeat it. Somewhere in our lives again, we're going to repeat it. But when I finally grasped what he was telling me, I understood that this isn't a coincidence. I've got to go through this. And what am I going to learn from this? And then hopefully I can help someone, right? Especially in the addiction field. Like, one of the first things I teach a client is to write a gratitude journal. They could be sitting in detox and they're cussing at me, looking at me cross-eyed. And I'm going, just trust me, start doing this. Right. And later you're going to understand that this wasn't so bad. It was something you had to go through, and I've been thrown out of rooms and told, but yeah. It's tough though. Like you said, when you're going through it, right, we have to find that, that inner strength to just go, okay, this isn't just somebody or something trying to conspire against me to kick my butt. It's actually trying to help me. And what am I going to learn? Right. Because like Mike Tyson's, I love his quote, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. I've been punched many times. Right. And it's like, when that happens, what are you going to do? Right. Like, right. And that's when you find your inner strength, I believe. So thank you for sharing that.
And turn into a ball of goo.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you say, because I do a gratitude journal every morning. I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And, during COVID, which was a year before my cancer diagnosis, I started, I thought, I'm locked down, what are the lessons that I can learn from this? What are the blessings that I can find in this? And I had card after card after card of the lessons and blessings from COVID. And then fast forward 1 year, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought, oh my goodness, like, why, as you said, why me? And, why now? And then I thought, you know what? The why questions never get answered.
No.
So what can I learn from this? And I started a lessons and blessings from my cancer journey. And I wrote them down, because now if I'm having a hard day, I can go back and look at those and go, oh yes. Oh, I mean, look at that.
Nice.
So I had a pity weekend right after I was diagnosed with cancer, and I, was wallowing in self-pity. And I remembered by the end of the weekend that my sister-in-law once told me, you can dip your toe in the pity pool, but you can never get in and swim. And I thought, you know what? That is really powerful, because once you get in, it holds you down. But, you can dip your toe in and feel sad and feel bad. And then, whew, all right, now what do I got to do to pull myself up and ride this thing through? And like you said, enjoy the suck.
When I was learning, when I was learning about mental health on a more in-depth level, I read somewhere that we only physically feel emotions for 90 seconds max. Anything after that is us choosing to hold on to that emotion. So that really speaks to that dipping the toe in the pool. It's like, that is your limit. So then anything after that, you're choosing. So in those moments where we're embracing the suck, one of my mentors told me, pick a time frame and say, look, here's the expiry on this pity party. You have 15 minutes. Go ahead. Be as gooey as you want to be. But then after that 15 minutes, you've let it all out. Give it up.
Right.
And in my darkest moments, I did that. I was like, I need to cry, but there's no tears left to cry. Okay, fine. I'm just going to feel shitty for the next 15 minutes. Right. And then I'm moving on.
Right.
And every time it works. And then to follow that up with the gratitude journal.
Right. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really powerful. And the other thing that was really powerful for me is I'm really big on affirmations and, kind of turning things around for yourself. And, I remember when I heard the word cancer, I was like, wow, that is such a heavy word, it just conjures up so much fear and sadness. And so by the end of my pity weekend, I was like, you know what? I got to turn that word around. And so I thought, you know what? Every time I hear the word cancer, I'm going to say to myself, oh, yes, I can, sir.
Oh.
And you know what? After that, after the pity weekend, I saw multiple surgeons and oncologists and pulmonologists. And, I didn't want to believe that it was true that I had cancer, but every doctor I saw based on my scan said, I'll be surprised if it's not cancer. And I mean, I would kind of sit there for a second, then I would be like, oh, yes, I can, sir. So it helped me kind of turn my thinking around. And every time I heard the word, it didn't kind of sit sad in my body. It sat, oh, yes, I can. So it really was a pretty powerful thing that I used through it. And thankfully, one of the big blessings in my journey is that I had a kidney stone. I had a pretty big kidney stone that took me to the emergency room, and they did a CT scan, and the emergency room doctor came back and goes, well, we solved it. You do have a kidney stone. And he said, and you have a 50-50 chance of passing it. And I'm a super competitive person. So I was like, oh, 50, I'll pass it. And he kind of looked at me like, oh, yeah, right. Well, I passed that darn kidney stone. And in the midst of the CT scan, the radiologist saw a nodule in my lung. And this was in 2019, so just before COVID hit. And he said, don't worry. Lots of people have, a nodule in their lung. It can be from any kind of, benign things. Just make sure you get a follow-up scan in a few months to keep an eye on it. Well, then COVID hit and, nobody's doing scans. And I didn't get a scan for a year and a half. And so when I went in for the scan, I wasn't worried. The ER doctor said, don't worry. And I wasn't worried. And then the next day after my scan, the doctor called and said, we'd like for you to come in and go over your test results. So that's when I got a little worried, but I thought, you know what? Thank goodness for a kidney stone. I mean, who knew I would be thankful for an excruciatingly painful kidney stone, but it saved my life.
I want to highlight that with all of us right now, because you're thanking your kidney stone to have this lovely outcome of just everything that has happened to you since then. So I want to ask Max, and I'm going to take a turn too, and our audience as well. Please put in the comments, what is something that on the surface just seems crazy to thank, but what are you thankful for now that has helped you become the person that you are today? So Max, do you have an example of that?
I would have to say my addiction and my recovery. So going through the things I went through in my active addiction, right? Which at the time you're like, how can anybody be grateful for that?
Yeah.
But those things and those lessons I learned that got me to 20 years sober make me very grateful that I got a second, third, fourth chance at this thing called life, and to do it sober. And like, I get to be here with Laura and Shelley, and like, if you would have asked me this 20 years ago, I would have said, whatever you're drinking or smoking, you need to pass it my way because there's something wrong with you. Right.
Yeah.
But I used to not be grateful for because of the pain I put my family, but 20 years later, doing a gratitude journal. See, I do mine in the morning, Shelley, and then I do it at night. So that's the last thing I'm putting in my brain is something positive. And I did it through deaths of my family, my granddaughter, my son. I just kept it going. So, but long story short, like, I'm grateful that my addiction ended, but I'm also grateful for the lessons I learned because of it.
Right. Yeah. For me, the first Blue Talks book that I was a part of, which was Blue Talks #1. Product placement. No. In my chapter, I was talking about a bicycle accident. And I actually say that I am grateful and thankful that the accident happened, because I never would have been in that book. I never would have become an entrepreneur. I never would have followed the passions that I had as a kid and didn't know that I was just settling in the moment. So I love how this conversation comes up about these are some hard things that are happening. We've turned to goo into mush. We've leaned into the suck. We've become grateful for the suck. And that is how we get from the goo to becoming that butterfly and flying away. So Shelley, I'm loving this conversation, but I also want to connect it to what it is that you do for people. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I'm in I'm thinking about doing a podcast.
Ooh, okay.
I have the title, but just not the plan. I want to do refresh, renew, reshell, because Shelley Slocum. And, so many of us, like, we grow out of our shell, right? And I want to help people kind of live their second act well. And so, after my cancer diagnosis, I had obviously some good time to reflect and decide, what do I really want to do with my life? And, I had been a very successful real estate broker for over 20 years. And I loved what I did, help people fulfill the American dream. It just, I loved it. But I felt like it was such a small scale of helping people that after my journey, I wanted to, I wanted to become an author. I want to start a speaking career. I'm in the process of doing that. I want to help people, inspire them, and live a more optimistic and happy life. And I'm getting certified to teach for Jack Canfield, his success principles. And I'm going to start teaching real estate brokers how to be successful. In real estate school, you learn how to write contracts and hopefully stay out of trouble, but nobody teaches you how to be successful. And, there's a lot of, even though people want to be successful, there's a lot of fear around success and failure. And so that's where I really want to dive in and help people live a more successful, happy life.
I love that.
Right.
And I was kind of thinking that earlier. We're going into stereotypes. The whole red blazer, that was my first thought, was realtor.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how that connects, but nah, she's probably not. Yeah, I guess you were. I love it.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you did say that you were becoming a speaker and that you're wanting to start a podcast. Why those things? Why not just stick with the books forever and always?
Well, because I do think all of it is a little bit like the ripple effect, right? I think, a book, we learned this weekend about the hand-to-hand book. I loved that saying because, a book doesn't do a lot of good on a shelf, right? It does good work when people are reading it and sharing it. And I think, I can do so much through my book, but I can amplify that. I think the benefits of that with a podcast and with training. And I think the more you can get in front of people and help people look at things from a different point of view, I think it really helps people get out of their own way and live a happier life. Because I think most people want to. It's just hard to do when you're in the midst of all the struggles that come our way. So I think sometimes you just need somebody to say, you know what? Here's where I've been. Here's what I've done. You can do it too.
I'm going to add to that. Okay, I've been using this all weekend for coaching. So this is the emotional scale. Just somebody's, I don't remember whose, but like let's hold it. Each emotion has a different frequency to it. And you can see that there's a scale.
Yep.
Wait, there we go. There's the numbers. So really high up here, really low down here. And the more we're down here, it's like our whole body kind of like crunches into these low feelings like shame and guilt and fear, right? And then love is very expansive. The problem is that we're asking people to make that huge jump. You're like, go from like shame and guilt to love,
happy, peace, joy.
So scary. If you're so used to doing this, you got to take it the one step at a time or two steps at a time. You can't just expect to be way out here. Right. It's a process. Yeah. I don't remember what you just where that was coming in, but I think it was that jump, right? Where we're wanting life to be amazing, and yet we're wondering why we're not doing it. It's because we think that we have to just light switch it on, and we're just there. It doesn't happen that way. We got to build up to it.
Well, and one of the quotes that I love is from Lou Holtz. And he said, in this world, you're either growing or you're dying. And, I'm 60 and I am like, you know what? I've got a lot of good years left in me, and I am going to continue growing every day I have on this earth. And I just want to inspire people to do the same thing. It used to be that, you retire and you do nothing. And more people are finding, that's not super fulfilling. You can only, play cards so much. You can only travel so much. you still need to find those, just the joy of growing every day for the rest of your life. And I'm, as you know from my book, I'm big in quotes, but Les Brown said the richest place on the planet is the graveyard. It's where so many hopes and dreams died along with the people. And I don't want that. I want to live every hope and dream, and I want to help others do it.
That's funny. I just read that quote this morning. And it's something similar that one of my favorite quotes comes from Shawshank Redemption, right? And I learned this in my early recovery. A mentor used it on me. He said, Max, you could get busy living or you get busy dying. It's up to you. What are you going to do? Right. And I love it because I'm in the business of living today, right? And helping people try to find their path. But when you do that with someone new in recovery, I do it sometimes because I like to see the look on their face. Maybe I'm being mean, but like when they're telling me this stuff and I'll just go, how's that? And I mean this in a kind way, like, how's that working for you? Right. Because I want them to think that, well, I'm sitting here in a detox bed. I don't feel good. But in part, it's not working. Like, I want them to think like I got to change something. So I love it, Shelley. Like, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
You talked about dreams. So let's go there. What are I want you to think crazy cool, Shelley. I don't want you to think logical or what you think might happen. Crazy, horribly out of the box, cool. What kind of dreams do you have?
Oh,
yeah.
I dream of being on a big stage with thousands of people who are just hungry to change their life. And to just walk away from there going, wow, it's never too late. And I don't want people to wait until they get the cancer diagnosis to say, gosh, what do I really want to do with my life? There's lots of wake-up calls that we get, and I don't want people to wait for that cancer call. I want you to say, you know what, every day, what can I do today to make this the best day I have? So yes, someday I want to be on a big stage.
Oh, I'm feeling you with that one. I have a whole video that I play in my head about that one. I was like, there's metal stairs. There's 5 of them. There's a taste of strawberry on my tongue from backstage, like little platters and stuff. And I walk up and there's a table. And then I sit on the table. And it's like tiered. Oh my God, yes.
I think that's what we all have in common on this one today. Because that's my big dream. Because if you ask me to go do it right now, I might go, no, I can't do it.
Oh, I do it right now.
Not ready.
Yeah, that's my big dream, to be on that stage. And it's just, like you said, it could be thousands, but if I help that one person, I've done my job.
Right. Yeah. But there's that emotion behind it where your heart just swells thinking about it. Right. That's how you know you're on the path. I know, it's like
I'm already feeling the butterflies, and we're not even.
Oh, there's no butterflies for me. If you snapped your fingers and put me on that stage right now, no prep, I would just probably cry in happiness that I'm there. And then we would just see where the conversation went, which is much of what I do here.
Right. Which is, it's a gift to be here every day. And I always thought that, but now I know it.
Oh, good. So what made that switch for you between just thinking about it and actually embodying and completely knowing?
Yeah, I think it really was the cancer, right? I lived, when my college roommate found out that I had cancer, she said, oh, Shelley, you're my healthiest friend. You take care of yourself. You eat healthy, you exercise. Like, if you got cancer, the rest of us are doomed. And I was like, well, not so, but I don't know. I don't know why I got cancer, but I do know that it was the light switch for me. It's, I have so much more in me, and I don't know how many days I have left, but I'm going to make the most of every one of those days. And, I think that's it. I think it was, we get into a rut. And a lot of us, you know, whether it's in a rut in our just our personal life, our professional life, whatever it is, we just stay in it because it seems too hard to get out. And, you know, I just kind of think about those, like the train track, you know, just just a tiny shift puts you on a whole different track. And, you know, you can make that tiny shift. You don't have to wait for something big to happen in your life. And, you know, in the transformational journey book, my chapter is called When Standing at the Crossroad of Misery and Success. Like, we all are there often, and we get to choose. Like, we're standing there at the crossroad. You get to choose the misery path or the success path. And I choose success. I choose success, and I want to help others do the same.
So, Shelley, have you heard of Louise Hay?
I have.
Oh, okay. So for those who haven't heard of Louise Hay, she talks a lot about how emotion is energy in motion, and how when you're not expressing that energy gets stuck in your body in different ways. So I looked up cancer just to see what it said, because it's so interesting. It said cancer is a deep hurt, long-standing resentment, deep secret of grief eating away at the self and carrying hatreds. Now, I don't know how much that relates to you and your experience, but I will just leave that with you. Just because I feel as though it just gives us another layer of insight to kind of ask ourselves, well, what is going on? How can I get to know myself better so that I can treat myself better?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've often said that I'm like a duck on a pond. You know, especially in real estate, you know, it's a very stressful profession. People don't realize, they just think you make a lot of money for doing nothing.
No.
And it's very stressful. And what, you know, when I say the duck on the pond, it's like I was calm, cool, and collected through all of these very stressful time, but inside I was like this. And I wasn't really good about getting that energy out. So I think that, you know, I don't know, you never know why, but I do think that I presented that very calm, we can get through this, we can handle this, whatever comes our way, we can do in my profession. But I wasn't great at really learning how to kind of let that energy go.
I've been watching RuPaul's Drag Race with my daughter now that she's older. I just love that I can introduce her to other cultures and have an understanding of how other people live their lives and their experiences. So when you're talking about how you were saying to cancer that you can, sir, I'm thinking of one of the drag queens going, oh, no, you better don't. Like the whole attitude with it. I'm picturing that attitude with you with the cancer. It's like,
Right.
I love it. I love it so much. So, Shelley, is there a core to the message that you're trying to share with people? Because I know you've got the book, you're wanting to speak, you were thinking about podcasts, and you're really trying to get yourself out there. Is there a pattern between the many messages that we have that you just need people to take away from our conversation?
A pattern. Well, I think remember when I mentioned my acronym for sugar? I'd love to share that with with people. I'm not going to share the whole thing today, but reach out to me, and you can. I'll guide you through it. But I think that the R in sugar is remember. We're stronger than we think. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, that's we draw from past strength to give us strength for the next. And with each journey that we go through, we get just a little bit stronger. And if we can lean in on that strength that we've gotten from the past struggles, we'll be much stronger and quicker through the next journey.
So I didn't get to start our conversation with one of my favorite questions, but now I'm curious. I want to know. I asked Jennie during her interviews, what would be 3 words that you would love other people to use to describe you?
Inspirational.
Okay.
Transformational.
Mm-hmm.
And loving.
Aww.
Because I do believe that the world needs more love right now.
Yes.
And I, that's kind of, I loved my daughter through her experience. I loved my clients through their challenges. And I just want people to know that if they want somebody to, love them through to success, I'm here to help.
Aww. I feel as though that's exactly what all of us need. Many entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because we have some sort of trauma or struggle story, and then we were like, oh, we can't find the answers. We made up our own answers. We figured it out. And now we're trying to share that with other people. But to have somebody be in that space with us when we're in that struggle moment that says, I care about you and love you enough to stick with you even in this ugliness and the struggle.
Right.
And I feel as though that's what we're trying to be today with all of the lessons that we've learned and how much we really care about the people that we want to help. It's like, look, I get it. And I still love you in that moment. That's hard. Can you imagine somebody who hasn't been there? You don't feel the same level of love and understanding.
Right.
Completely different.
And you don't have to go through their same struggle, right?
Nope.
People don't have to have gone through, addiction. You don't have to have gone through cancer, but we all have the struggles. Nobody gets through this life without it.
Yeah.
And, I just think that the more compassion we can have for people and help others through their struggles, the better life will be.
Definitely. That's exactly why I like to talk about emotions, not necessarily the details of your story and the details of your struggle, but what were the emotions and the emotional needs that weren't met because of your struggles and your story. That is what ties us together as human beings. I was just talking to somebody the other day about being adopted. One person's adopted, they don't care. Another person's adopted and feel abandoned. Like, where is the disconnect there? It's not about the thing that happened. It's about our perspective of it and how we felt.
Right. The story.
Yeah.
The story that we either create or tell ourselves that we relive. And, it's just that, remember the tiny shift onto another track.
Yeah.
It's just a tiny shift in the story that we tell ourselves that can put us on a whole new path.
Like all those quotes and stuff in your book. So where can we find you, Shelley?
Well, email is great. I'm not a super big social media person, but my email address is inspirationfrommom@gmail.com. And my website is loveandinspiration.org.
Oh, I love both of those. And part of me just wants to call you mom because you labeled yourself as mom.
Well, honestly, all the jobs that I've had in my life, my favorite job has been being mom. And, it's the hardest, best job in the world. And I've helped my 2 daughters through, life. They're in their 30s now, and I get to be Mimi to grandkids, and it is the greatest blessing on the planet.
Isn't
fun.
it? I love being grandpa. I have 10 over here. All the kids are cut this Christmas. All grandkids.
Right.
Yeah, 10. I said that right. I have 10.
That's what I thought you said. Oh my God.
I have 4, and I saw a sign on, my parents live in a retirement community, and there's some people 2 doors down that put a little, I don't know, it's a joke or a riddle or a quote or something they change it every day.
Oh, nice.
And one day it said, kids by appointment only, grandchildren welcome anytime.
I love it.
That's true.
I like that one too. Thank you so much, Shelley, for joining us. We've had some tears and some laughs. I love when it's a good mix of all of it because we went up and down that scale. It's all good.
I agree. All the emotions. And thank you so much for having me here. And it's just been an honor to be with both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Okay.
Bye. I see you, Sherry, in the background. If you can hear us and see us well, then just give me the thumbs up and I'll bring you up. Awesome. We were joking earlier. We're like, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. You can't just pop them on the screen without letting them know. Well, I just want to say welcome, Sherry, and so nice to see you yesterday.
Yes,
and
same
on the
here.
weekend for the boot camp.
Thank
But
you.
now I get to actually have like a longer conversation with you, which is very exciting.
Exactly.
So let's start off with one of my favorite questions.
Yeah.
I want to know, what would 3 words be that you would love other people to use to describe you?
3 words other people would use to describe me would be
That you would like other people to use to describe you.
okay.
Slightly different.
Slightly different. That's correct. It's slightly different. Okay, so
And there's no wrong answers.
vulnerable.
Oh.
Yeah. And funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I would probably say resilient is there because it's just everybody would probably say that, and it is true. So yeah.
Actually, not everybody says that. Most of the time, I get authentic and creative. That tends to be the pattern in many people. I started writing down the words that people keep giving me because I'm so interested in the patterns of things. But no, resilient actually isn't. There's a few people, but not as many as you'd think.
Interesting. Yeah.
So then why would you choose those words? Why would you want to be known as vulnerable, funny, and resilient?
The vulnerable piece, I think, is because I don't show my emotions much. And when I do, I think it makes my friends and everyone feel uncomfortable because they're so used to seeing me in that Sherry can get it done. Give it to Sherry, she'll do anything. And so what they don't know is when you lay down at night and you look up into the ceiling and those emotions, even my husband probably doesn't see as much emotions as he probably would like to see. And so, yeah, I hide those. I've hidden them for years. Yeah. And when I do show them, people are like, oh my God. Is the world coming to an end? Like,
I was just about to say that. I was like, the world must be crashing if she's finally.
She's really hurting. Like, she's dying. I'm like, no, it's in me. It's been there forever.
I'm human.
That little girl's there. So vulnerable. And then I said funny because I do have I'm very quick when it comes to being funny and saying little smart, snarky things. And they're like,
That's
looking at me.
Favorite.
You got a sense of humor. Like, yeah, it's been there. So you have to, I feel like all the time, like it's there because sometimes you have to look at the world and not be so serious about it because it'll take you down. And so for me, I try to see the humor in things as much as I can. And so I'm always saying something snarky and funny. And
I can't wait. Bring it, Sherry. It's the things that I love. I'll tell you a bit of a story. So I was looking for a photo came up on my memories of my Facebook, and it was my daughter dressed up as Ronda Rousey. And so I told her, I was like, oh, do you remember when you dressed up as Ronda Rousey? And without thinking, there was no pause, just like that. My daughter's like, do you remember when you killed that plant? And I'm like, oh, the burn. But I was so proud because at that point, that quick wit to me is a sign of intellect. And to know that she could just not think about it and just whip it back at me, I was like, oh, you made me so proud.
Exactly.
I love it in other people because it's the same thing. It's a sign of intellect. And so then I want to just bounce it back and forth with you and see how far we can take it. Oh,
Okay. I'm game.
okay. And then the last one was resilient.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, that's just, I know it's innately, you kind of wonder how people become resilient. I've asked myself that so many times, like, and when did it start for me? And I can just remember it like from 5 or 6 years old. And I say that because I remember a scenario where my mom worked during the day, and my dad worked at night. And he was supposed to be babysitting for me. Apparently, I was too young to attend kindergarten at the time. So he was supposed to be there during the day, keeping me. Well, he would leave and leave me in the apartment by myself. We had an upstairs apartment. Yeah. I talk about this in my book too. And I was
time back then. Yeah.
I would just stand like in this curtain overlooking the street, and I'd wrap myself in this curtain, and I would just stand there, and like if there was anything that in the house that would pop, the refrigerator or anything, you know how the house would pop, I just would like, my eyes would move, like, but I would not leave that curtain. I would just wrap myself even tighter. So I think that's when I started to realize my resilience, that, things are going to happen to you. Of course, I didn't put it together then, but things are going to happen to you, and you just got to like get back up. And so it's been a pattern all my life. Yeah. So anyone that's met me in high school, or even, in my formative years of growing up, trying to navigate this world, and even now till today, will say, don't mess with her.
Do it.
He's very resilient and creative.
Oh, there you go. The creative, the authentic. Yeah, bring that in. So how do these words play a role in the work that you do?
Oh my God.
I know. They're hard questions, but they're not.
Well, I would say, I had to build my professional work experience up. I really struggled with, what am I supposed to be when I grow up? Who is Sherry? Like, what's my passion work? I mean, for years and years and years, I tried to figure that out. Although now I'm at this coaching stage, and it's like, you should have been doing that like years ago. That's who you really are innately. You've been given advice. You always tell them, people always come to you saying, can I run something past you? But you don't know what you know. So the whole, and I think my professional work experience, leadership experience, has lent itself into where I'm at today from a coaching perspective. And so, yeah, it's just kind of all come full force for me. When I was, in my professional work experience, I was going through a lot still. I lost my sister at the age of 40. I took in her 2 boys, and I lost 2 brothers along the way. So every time I tried to pivot my career to where my passion lies, other things kept happening, and so I had to pick up the pieces and pay the bills. And, my 2 nephews came to live with me and readjusted my life. So yeah, all of those things has built me to where I'm at today, which I told you, this is my unicorn phase of my life.
I love that you told me that. That was one of my favorite things from yesterday, or from the weekend. It's like unicorn phase.
It is.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah. My transformation.
Right. Yeah. Sherry, I'd like to ask you, right? Like, in going through this process, right? It seems to be the theme here that our guests have, like all of us, have had these challenges that weren't just small, like, I'll just jump over this hill and I'll be on my way, right? Like, life-changing challenges. And like you said, we have to be resilient. But in your coaching, like, how do you teach people that they're more resilient than they think they are, right? Like we always say, we're stronger than we think they are, but resilience doesn't always come up, right? And how do you teach your coaching clients that you're more resilient than you are? Just keep having that faith and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
It can be tough. Like, when we're in it and someone tells me I'm resilient, I might look at him cross-eyed and go like, I don't know what you put in your coffee today, but like, I think you need to, let's revisit that another time. But we're as humans, I think we're so resilient. And it's like, I'm always like learning how to teach my clients the same thing, like without them looking at me, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I do with my clients is it's a why assessment. It's a tool that I use. And so what it does is it's a 10-minute assessment that you take, right? But I use that tool to like, it pulls out, your what, your how, and your why. And it shows you, it just gives you like, it really is like very accurate about, what you like and, how you show up in the world. But the other part is you have to like, your client really has to be in tune. Are they ready at this point to be able to move the needle? Because mentally, for me, it took me a really long time. I had to sit in the pain and the hurt, and I'm an in progress kind of person still today, and I own that. But it's a mind shift as well. That if the person, no matter if you have a client and they pay you the money, if they're not mentally ready to make the change and take the steps, there is nothing, honestly, that you can do until they're ready to come back to the table again, or till they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, which is kind of where I was. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about that actually during our last interview with Shelley. Like, why is it that we allow our boundaries to get pushed so far before we finally decide to enforce something? And that's that moment of like, why does it have to become cancer before you take action? Why do you have to be in a car accident? Why do you have to become addicted? Like, why do we go that far?
That's a very good question. I don't know. And, I feel, to me, and Max, you might be able to lend some insight, but I feel women are even worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I have a very tough wife who has taught me a lot about, like, because what Laura said just resonated, right? Like when I was getting sober, right? And the things, because I abandoned my children, right? I've been back in their lives for 20 years now, but it took me a long time. They would know how to manipulate, make me feel guilty, and push my boundaries, like Laura said, to where I would cave, like, okay, right, Dad. But what I've learned from the people around me, like yourselves, is that those are my boundaries. And no one gets to cross them. And I even tell that to not even you, Max. If you set this, because I'm supposed to be the leader of my family, right? And if I'm always folding and giving in, right? Because they always say you never know who's watching, but we know who's watching. It's our children, it's our grandchildren, right? And if they see grandpa, like for me now, it's even more important to hold strong, healthy boundaries, because I want my grandchildren to see, like, grandpa says what he means and he means what he says. Don't mess with them, right? And my kids are learning that now, even as adult children. But it's a battle sometimes, right? Because sometimes they may catch us on a off day where we're not really feeling our best, and they get away with it, and then you kick yourself in the butt going, oh, they got me. Like, then you want to call them back up, and then you just go, okay, I'm just gonna let that one slide. But it's it's a learning process, right? As you said, Sherry, I'm a work in progress. And I think if I keep that way, then I don't tell myself that I'm done and I don't have to learn anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. I just can go by, I have brothers. I had 3 brothers, on 2 nephews and cousins and all that. And they're just really like kind of stuck sometimes. And I'm like, I just feel like they're harder to tune into their emotions, to be honest, and want to make change, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So the client, getting back to the client, I just think they have to be, unfortunately, it's really sad because some people take this to their grave. Like, the things that you regret is the things you didn't do while you were still alive, kind of scenario.
Right.
But some people some people can just never, it's just sad, and they never can shake it off.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
Let's all shake it off right now. Everybody watching too, okay? We're shaking it off. We're doing what Les Brown says. We're not waiting. We're not putting it on our grip. We're just like, Act
Get off,
silly, be whatever.
like that, off your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Good, we get some laughs in there too. I don't want this show to be taken seriously. We're having a lot of fun, but we're also talking about the serious stuff because it's the people behind the businesses, not just the businesses. So I love how we go back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. I like that you said you're vulnerable, right?
Yes.
That's hard for a lot of people to do. And I know when I first got sober, my sponsor would say, "You need to get vulnerable, Max." And that was like hearing the Peanuts cartoon. All I heard was rah, 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 rah. Like I don't but I read Dr. Brene Brown's book on vulnerability is a superpower, and it changed my whole perspective and perception, and now that's what I try to teach. But like you said, sometimes our clients aren't at that point. And you want to shake them and go, "Oh, if you just do this one little shift and you learn to do this, you're going to be okay."
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's the lesson we get to learn through our clients is not everybody is ready to move forward, right? And that's why we meet them where they're at. We do our best, and if we can show them as the coach or the leader to be vulnerable, maybe they'll go, "Oh, there might be something to this. So I'm going to go try what Max is doing or Laura's doing or Sherry's doing because it's working for them," right? Because sometimes we got to lead by example.
It's true. Yeah. And if they know your story, right, maybe that'll, resonate with them. Like, okay, well, Max has been through a lot. Laura's been through a lot. And Sherry's been through a lot. Maybe I too have hope, which is what I was hearing in the conference all weekend. Like everybody has, can I use the word shit?
Yeah, please do. I use it.
Everyone has it. Everyone has a story, and to be honest with you, that is the one thing that's stopping me, not so many times from taking this path too, because I kept saying, what makes you think your story is any more special than anybody else's in this world, Sherry? Buckley-Brown. Really? I mean, that's that little devil just trying to not let you be successful. And some people let that, stop them from blossoming and flowering and just being the best that they can be because they keep telling that to themselves. And so, I don't know. I just want to shout my story, not all the negative parts of it, but just the perseverance and just knowing that you're not the only person that's going through stuff in this life, but what is it that you do with it? And what legacy do you want to leave when you close your eyes for the rest of your life? Do you want to stay where you are? Or do you want to move forward?
Well, let's say the same thing that we've said a couple times, even just today, affecting one person affects people in their lives, and then those people affect people in their lives. And so you affecting one person could be you affecting thousands or even millions of people without you even knowing it.
Exactly. Domino effect.
Yes.
Ripple effect. Yep.
And so then is it worth it to help the one person? Of course it is.
Yeah.
I like to go back a little bit more and I'm like, is it worth it to help the one person when that one person is that old version of you on the inside? And you're like, oh, that's deep. I love being deep. That's me. So then how can your life change by healing that one person that is the old version of you? How can you show up differently tomorrow and not leave all that stuff in the graveyard in the cemetery?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah.
That's worth it to me.
Absolutely.
I love it, right? Because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
Right. When someone was helping me early on, they'd always, especially my mentor, sponsor, whatever you want to call him, he would say, Max, you're helping me more than I could ever help you. And I would think, like, this guy has lost his mind. He helped save my life, but I'm helping him. And I would, and then when I turned around and did the same thing with another person that he did with me, it clicked. I got it. Like, sometimes we learn so much from the people that we're helping. They don't realize how much they're helping us grow as a human being also. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm honored to be here, and I get to ask questions and be with you, Shelley and Laura, because it's just making me think, right? that one person, that's all it takes, that one person.
Yeah. They're helping us as much as, clients, they don't realize that, they're seeking us out for help. But for me, you were right, Max. They help me just as much as I help them.
Absolutely.
So then, do you have some favorite tools that you love to work with for your clients?
So yeah, like the why assessment tool, which really that's just knowing your why, to be honest with you. It just helps you understand your why. But I think, for people, I always ask them, of course, to close their eyes and picture their best world, and everyone does that. But the other thing is what is it that you do naturally in your life? You don't even think about it, and it's just something that you do really well. It could be cooking. It could be, I know how to plant the best flowers in the world, or the garden. It could be just the simplest thing. So I try to get them to think about it in that perspective. It could be, I don't know, whatever it is that you do well, running. And is it something, if that's the case, is it one or two things? And if that's the case, what is it? Can you take those one or two things and catapult it into a career or something that you enjoy doing that makes you satisfied? It's your passion. Like, that's what I try to focus on when it comes to my clients. It's like, yeah, we all have to work. We got bills to pay, and the economy is tough. So I'm not telling you to quit your job, your regular job, but what I'm saying is, what is it that you like to do that you can just naturally do it and use it to make extra money, pad your bank account. Yeah. That's where you're going to find your happiness, because it's something you do and you don't even think about it. I try to go that perspective.
Yeah, that's the magical part. We're gonna hone on this for a little bit here because it's so important. Every time people want to know, what is my skills? What can I share? What can I do this? It is always the type of skill where you don't even know that you have it. It comes so naturally to you.
Right.
And you don't notice it because it comes natural to you. So having your friends, asking your friends or your community members or your family, what is it that comes naturally to me?
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me that conversation comes naturally to me. And it does. I'm just so interested in other human beings that I'm so in my curiosity, I can't help it.
I have friends like you.
I never noticed until people told me. And then I never noticed until about 3 years ago that patterns is one of my other superpowers. I didn't know. I just did it. I didn't think about it. But yet, when people would see my spreadsheets and they'd see all this data and how it was minimized into patterns, they're like, I can't do that. I'm like, how can you not do that? It just happens. They're like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. I'll be one of those that, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And then, okay, taking your assessment, the why assessment, and understanding, coming at it from that viewpoint of things you just do.
Yeah.
And don't think about.
Yeah.
Because I love to think about it, comparing it to a 6-year-old. Does what you know or what you do naturally, could a 6-year-old do it? If the answer is no, you have a starting point. Because anything really beyond that, we all take those different roads and branches.
Yep. At different times.
You don't know where you're going to end up. So I just really wanted to hound on that because it is so magical, and I love that you brought that up.
It is. It's naturally just, yeah.
And it's so natural to you. You're just like, here it is.
Well, no, I can't. No, I batted mine away. Nope, that's not me. Seriously, years. I'm mad at myself. I'm really, people will just always come to me and ask me for advice. I'm like, why do people think I know everything? I got irritated. I was like, why do people keep coming to me asking me these questions? Sherry, I need to run something by you. Sherry, let me ask you something. You got a minute? No, I don't. So I kept batting it away. And the other thing too is I'm a natural planner. I just planned my husband a 60th birthday party. People kept asking me, I'm such an in advance type of person. I just did it, and it was boom, 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 boom. And everybody, my girlfriend's an event planner. She said, "You're trying to take my job." I was like, "No, I'm not."
Maybe
it's just natural. It comes naturally.
Okay, that's the same thing. That's why I create spreadsheets. Is I also have the mind where there's so many thoughts in my head at the same time that it's really difficult for me to just calm down, start to see the patterns. So then I just kind of shove it all into Excel spreadsheets so I can visually see it, because I'm visual. But I'm also an external processor. So then I want to go over here and have conversations with people, and all of you, to help me process all of that information. And then I go back to it, which is why I have the notes of like all those 3 words that people want to be described as. And I'm like, what are the patterns in the information that I've gotten from that feedback now that I understand it? It's like, oh, all this stuff comes together. It's just so magical.
Isn't it like people watching? Like, these conversations is like people watching when you sit out at the park. And I kind of like to just see how people interact. And this is kind of the same concept. Like, you say you talk to a lot of people, Laura. I'm not that girl. Like, I'll go to a party. If I know people, I'll have a conversation, but I just don't walk up and have conversations with people. I may introduce myself, but that's probably about it. Like, yeah.
Oh no, I will talk to everybody, everywhere, anytime about anything. And I think that's the other thing my friends love is I will literally talk about anything that you want without judging you for it. So we started with Jennie today, and I wore my corset because we have the same corset, and we went right into the whole conversation about BDSM and like LGBTQ community and like all of those slightly uncomfortable conversations for some people. But it's because I love letting other people know that we're allowed to have these conversations.
Yes.
In different types of spaces. The only thing that needs to shift is how we talk about it.
Agreed.
We can still talk about it, but it's just how do we present it? That's it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So love that. So Sherry, tell us more about the ways that you love to share your message.
So, I told you that the reason I have to explain, the reason why I decided it's taken me years to write a book. And the reason why it's taken me years is because it has all my vulnerabilities in it, everything that I felt when I went through all of these events. And I am now putting it out here for the world to see. But I'm okay with that now. I have made peace with it. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It is what it is. It's a part of who I am. And here you go. So I pray that it does empower, inspire, and touches someone's life. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to be utilizing that book is like, hey, here, I went through some stuff. You're going to go through some stuff. If you keep living, as my grandmother used to say, just keep living. So that'll be one way. I also will be creating some empowerment summits. I was, coaching is great, but I want to be able to touch bigger, a lot more people. So I'm going to be creating some empowerment summits starting in the DFW area. And just take that and create a movement of, hey, let's go kick ass and take names and live life. Let's just go be happy. Live your best life is where I'm at.
I have to put this one in there too. Just keep living. Yeah, Jen loves it.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I love when we get the engagement from our watchers and listeners. Well, then you mentioned that you were writing a book. Do you have a name for this book yet so that we can search for it?
I do. It's called Who Will Take Care of Me Now? It's a story of perseverance, strength, and I forgot. Perseverance, strength, and courage. Yeah. That's the subtitle. So I'll be launching in January. I wanted to do it at the beginning of the year because that's a time when people want to, change their lives. They find renewal, and hopefully this book will, resonate with them.
Okay, that resonated with me right there.
I was
just the idea of waiting for somebody to come save us. Which never happens. I think you told me that on the weekend, but we still want it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to talk about helping that old version of you. We are that savior that we wanted in that moment.
Right.
And to recognize that.
Yeah.
But nobody else is actually going to come for us. No Prince Charming. Oh, well.
But the title, it's funny. The title, Who Will Take Care of Me Now? It came from, when my mom passed, and this has been years ago, but that's the first thing that came in my head. is who will take care of me now? And it sat with me forever and ever and ever. And when I started writing this book, I didn't know what I was going to name the book. I was just like, I want to make sure it's something that resonates with people. And then it, and then of course they were like, well, put it in the headline analyzer, get feedback from people. But I just said to myself, that is the name of my book, period, point blank. I that's it. Who will take care of me now? And I answered my question like me. I'm it. I will take care of me now.
But your title meant something. It was deep. Like we get where you're coming from. The headline analyzer, it's just kind of like, I don't know where I'm going. That's just a place to start.
Yeah.
It helps you evolve. But if you've already got that, I felt it. I know Max felt it. I watched his face too.
Right. I'm getting emotional thinking about that because what a title, right? Because it just brought me back years, from my childhood. And my mom died about 8 years ago. I was 48, 49 years old. And, it made me think because she tried to teach me from as long as I can remember, like to be independent. Don't depend on anybody else. Yeah. Right. And the biggest way she did that was she worked her butt off to provide for my little brother and I. Like we never lived in an apartment. We always had a house. Right. And when you brought that title up, I was thinking about, like even like one of the last times I sat with her, she's like at 49, she's telling me, don't you think it's time to go to bed? It's 7 o'clock, right? Like you need your rest, son. And I'm like, Mom, I'm 49 years old. I'm going to sit here and watch TV with you. Right. But it's just, I love that title, right? Because if you think about it, it made me think about like, yeah, I had a mom when I was growing up, but as you get older, you ask yourself, who's going to take care of me? Like, right. Yeah. And then hopefully that pushes us as humans to go, I need to do that. Like, I need to find my way in this world. And I need to be like Sherry and Laura and all these people out there that are out there kicking ass, right. And taking names and helping others. And like, I don't believe today is a coincidence that I'm here. I get to sit with some amazing ladies today and hear their stories and ask questions and right. Because in return that you both are helping me go like, because to me, it's always like that onion analogy, right? Yeah. Uncover, discover, discard, and move on to the next
Cry
one.
a little.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I always do. And my wife said, can you cut the onion? I go, you just like to see me cry, don't you?
Maybe.
But you know what I mean? And that was something I learned and it stuck with me. It's just like, I can't stay stuck. I have to, yes, I have to be present in the now, but I'm always working on that next part of where I want to go and who I want to help. And, what kind of legacy am I going to leave my 10 grandchildren and my kids and all that stuff? Because, right, I remember just being stuck where like none of this would have made sense to me. Like, I wouldn't be here, but but I get to hear these great questions. I get to ask questions and get to be with you guys today. So thank you, Sherry.
I'm proud of you, Max. Your work is not done. I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So we've been playing with another fun question, which I think would be a lovely way to have our last 10 or 12 minutes with you. We were talking about crazy cool dreams. We're not talking about logical or tangible or something that you think you could actually do. We're talking crazy cool, mind blown ideas of your dreams. So tell us about those kinds of dreams that you have.
Oh, wow. I imagine and picture myself being able to, like I said, have this movement where I'm able to empower and go around the world and just hold these summits and fill a room that people really recognizes their potential. And if I could play a part in that, like literally stop limiting themselves and, taking just, I don't know. It makes me smile inside to be able to just know that people recognize their natural born talents and they're using that and they're happy and they're thriving and they can take care of their families. And the world is so much better. Like we're a better world. Like all of that makes my inside sing.
I
So
know.
yeah.
It's like, yes, that's my. Are you an idealist too?
I want that to happen.
So bad.
We need that in this world.
Absolutely.
We do. We need to pull together as human beings, period, point blank.
Yeah.
We're in this world together. We deserve to be happy. We've gone through enough shit. Let's just like, get out of each other's way and let's just be happy as a world. Right?
Yeah. Like human beings are community-based creatures.
Yeah.
You were talking, Max, about growing up to be independent. That's not how we're meant to be. It is wonderful to know that we can.
Right.
Right.
The difference is that we don't have to, nor should we want to. But we're brought up to think that we should be independent and have all of our shit together and look perfect on Instagram and have all of our words and never say and never cry on camera. And that's totally not me. You've seen me cry probably 5 times today. But
it's not hard. Shouldn't be.
No, it's about coming together in collaboration. So Sherry, I'm thinking of your dream about events, and I have experience event planning too. I have my own events and I love to help other people coordinate theirs, and we'll talk behind the scenes about getting things done.
We will.
But then this feeling of having that love in a community that feels like family and wants to support each other, is that kind of the energy behind what you're wanting here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
And 100%. That we can totally get behind, because now we're just leaving it up to the universe and the unknown that says, I can do it better than you could ever think of.
Right.
Which is something I've been playing with lately because it's so hard. We want to control everything.
Yeah.
Leaning into that unknown because it can plan so much better than I can.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. And the universe will meet you. I got that now. The universe will meet you where you are and help catapult you along. I'm ready.
Catapult. I'm ready. Okay, I got SpongeBob in my head now. I'm ready.
Isn't that an oxymoron, right? Like we learn to become independent. But here's what I've learned in my 55 years on this earth, right? Because growing up, that's what mom tried to teach us.
Yep.
But when I got sober, there was no I in that. It was a we thing. And if I didn't use that fellowship and I didn't use the people around me that were trying to help me and support me, I probably wouldn't be sitting. There would be no independent Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that collaboration. That's one of my core values is collaboration and helping others, because you're going to get the help in return. And as we've talked about, right, we see what's going on in this world, and we need to come together because ultimately, right, we're neighbors, we're friends, right? We're, I don't want to look at my neighbor and go be mistrustful because I'm Mr. Independent now. I don't know what you're doing, right? Because I just want to know that there's a lot of love and kindness and vulnerability in this world, that we all recognize that we are one. And it's like Bob Marley said, one love. That's how my faith is, and I believe so.
I like that. Yeah. I just want to believe it's more happy people in this world than it is evil people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I keep reminding myself, and I keep telling my daughter this too, that those evil people, which do exist, it's not the human being that is evil or toxic. It is the behavior that is evil and toxic. And so I just have to remind myself every single time it comes up. Most of the time, those behaviors happen because there's a need that's not met.
Right.
Usually that's related to some sort of love, hence the hate.
Yep.
Okay. And it's so hard in the moments when it's happening and you're receiving or even seeing the hate.
Yeah.
That you're just like, oh, okay. Instead of getting mad, I send you love.
Yeah.
I send you love. I send you love.
Yeah. You have to limit
what's going on.
Yeah. Limit the energy. Yeah.
Okay. So Sherry, tell us where we can find you and your favorite way to communicate with people.
Sure. So I do have a website. It's www.sherrybuckley-brown.com. And then you can also reach me on my email, which is sherrybuckley-brown@gmail.com.
Okay. And so your favorite way is email?
Emails, yeah, I'm either
Oh.
way. Yeah, you can contact me via my website, and also via email. Either
Are
way.
you on social media at all?
I am. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
You're like, I'm everywhere.
Instagram is SBB Inspire is my tag. SBB Inspire. I just got on TikTok because I keep hearing, TikTok is a good way to, launch your book and all that. So I just got there. But all the rest of them are Sherry Buckley-Brown.
Nice. I like all of that.
Yeah.
And I've been playing in my head this whole triple name thing. I'm loving it. Especially with the alliteration at the end. Of course, I love alliterations, but I'm biased. It sounds so fun to say that I just keep wanting to say your name in my head.
I know when I got married, it took me forever to get married. And so I was like, do I want to give up my, name? And I was like, ask my husband. He's like, whatever you want to do. I was like, okay, I'll keep it.
I love that he gave you that kind of support though.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So then I just want to make sure that you have said everything that you wanted to say, that you wanted to share. Was there any sort of comments that you wanted to make sure our audience got from this conversation today?
Yeah, I just want to, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I do want to reiterate that we can never turn our eyes away from that. It's still happening today, and we have to support it. We have to be champions for it. We have to keep speaking about it. And so, if there's anything that you could do to assist, spread the word, help out, just know that it's still alive, and the saying hurt people is still very relevant today. So let's keep our eyes on it.
I love that you brought that up. Many of the entrepreneurs I'm talking to have some sort of cause that's related to the work that they do that they really, truly support. Do you also support domestic violence?
Yeah, so that's the other initiative that I will be getting into as well. With my book and all that, I'm going to connect with the domestic violence organizations and just be more in support and volunteering and spreading the word. Yeah.
So since we were talking about collaboration, I'm finally able to start planning a conference in Edmonton next year. I don't have dates or anything like that yet. This is one of my dreams, where it's talking about mental health and stories of mental health. I'm looking for people to speak in different areas to kind of be a part of this, whether they're live and in person or not. My dad keeps calling. I'll call him back. But it's also to face our fears at the same time. So I'm thinking about going skydiving. Oh my God. As a part of it, somebody had mentioned firewalking. Like, do you have that kind of idea of how you want to get involved with charities and give yourself opportunities to speak and share your message at the same time?
Well, yeah, I am working on getting myself integrated, from speaking engagements. Now, walking on fire and
I don't know.
I don't know about that part yet.
I would rather skydive.
I'm definitely, wanting to, lend my experience to organizations and, grow from there. Like I'm just stepping out onto my platform. So I'm really excited about all the possibilities. Yeah.
Skydiving is fun, ladies. Try it. I've done it twice.
What?
Skydiving?
13, well, if you really want to overcome, if you have a fear of heights, jump at 18,000 feet. I did it once, and it was amazing. To me, it was a 90-second free fall. You can actually see the curvature of the earth. So all those people out there that say the earth is flat, I'll tell you it's not because I've seen it. But you definitely overcome your fear of heights at 18,000 feet because you don't even see the earth until you come passing through the clouds. You're like, oh, there it is.
Oh, I wouldn't even see it because my eyes would be closed until I hit the ground.
Oh my God. I don't have a fear of looking down. I have a fear of looking up. So I could literally just be standing in my driveway and looking up and then want to fall over. But I could be on a roof and look down and I'm fine.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, Laura.
Yeah, I know. This has been absolutely lovely, Sherry, and I loved getting to know you even more.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
Like spending time with you over the weekend, but now really getting to know you and the type of work that you do and the causes that you stand for. I love all of that.
I know. Thank you, Laura and Max, for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so excited about the possibilities and what this world is bringing, and I'm excited to be collaborating with you guys as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will remind both of you and myself, as well as everybody watching and listening, that this community is really loving and supportive. Like, find people that are having the conversations that you want to have and become a part of it. Collaborate, connect with each other, like follow each other, comment on each other's stuff, share it, like all of that, so that we can create that world, Sherry, that we want to see, where we are more of a community instead of the unhelpful, unloving kind of ones. We want that love and we want to be helpful. So let's share it. This was day 1 of Amplify Your Message. Tomorrow is day 2 of Amplify Your Message, where we actually start on time. No late days tomorrow. It starts at, I'm trying to get time zones right, 10 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, which for me is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Atlantic. So same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks again to everyone who joined me live and everyone who is watching. So much love, and we will see you again. Bye. We're going to end the stream, and I usually didn't.